Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to deliver this message on behalf of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Finland on the occasion of ASAIF 2020 and the launch of the Breaking Barriers publication. The report focuses on the experiences and challenges of the female entrepreneurs within the Southern Africa startup ecosystem. Both entrepreneurship and gender equality are at the heart of the Finnish development policy. The main goal of the policy is to eradicate poverty, reduce inequality, and achieve sustainable development. Gender equality is a cross-cutting objective in all of our development cooperation, and strengthening the status and rights of women and girls is one of the 4 priority focus areas. Another priority focus area is on strengthening the economic base of developing countries and creating jobs, with an emphasis on innovation and the role of women in the economy and female entrepreneurship. The SIZE program implements both of these policy priorities, and the report now being launched is one concrete example of this. Finland considers innovations for development as a means to achieve new solutions to the multifaceted and complex development problems. These innovations, created mostly in partnership with private sector, go often beyond technological and digital solutions due to the complexity of the problems addressed. The achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals requires private resources and innovative solutions. The private sector is also critical in creating jobs. Finland supports enabling business environment conducive for micro, small, and medium enterprise growth, promotes fair rules for job creation, and finances the development and piloting of technological solutions. Finland promotes the expansion of innovation ecosystems and capacity of the private sector, and develops innovative solutions for development challenges. Gender equality is the cornerstone of well-being, education, and working life. Finland's own development with women's early voting right and participation in political and economic decision-making testifies for this. Gender equality was elementary in a higher education level and in the transformation from a developing into an industrialized country, and further into an advanced innovation and knowledge economy. The Breaking Barriers report provides an important contribution to the discussion on how to improve the prevailing system where female tech entrepreneurs face bigger challenges than their male counterparts. These challenges relate to participation to STEM education, difficulties in balancing work and home life requirements, access to finance, and lack of belief and role models. Many of the challenges are not unique to female entrepreneurs, but barriers to overcome them are higher. The report also brings forward inspirational female tech entrepreneurs, innovation support service providers, and startup companies led by women. I'm very much looking forward to the panel discussion today, and I'd also like to congratulate the SIZE team, HIVOS, and all those who contributed to this important report. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the annual Southern African Innovation Forum 2020. Our session today is basically focusing on breaking barriers, highlighting some of the key areas of a report that was recently published by the Southern African Innovation Support Program together with HIVOS. We are basically looking at, discussing some of the issues around female entrepreneurship, innovation, and technology. My name is Nambula Kachumi, and I am your moderator today. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on some of the issues surrounding innovation and technology, especially to do with women. And so I have very eminent panelists today, and I'd like to begin by welcoming Rachel Sibanda, who is the co-founder and director at MHub in Malawi. Rachel, you're welcome. I'd also like to introduce Refilo Matlapeng, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Vimoshield Insurance in Botswana. You're welcome. Third, I'd also like to introduce Auri, who is the independent consultant and has also worked with the SIZE program and has really also spearheaded the publication of the Breaking Barriers report. You're welcome to this session. Very excited to connect with you. So I will basically start by giving a very brief background. First of all, our session is very exclusive because one, we are officially launching the publication. And secondly, also, we get to hear some of the experiences of, women in the Southern Africa that have spearheaded innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship within the region, and have also helped to catalyze women's participation in the innovation ecosystem. To kick off the panel, I would just like to mention that technology has changed a lot of things recently. It's changed the way we work, it's changed the way we interact, it's changed the way we do business, and definitely this has also brought about a number of opportunities in terms of new ventures, new markets. But I think it's also important to, reflect on the kind of integration that needs to happen, especially when it comes to do with women who form more than half of the world's population. The publication itself, the Breaking Barriers publication, highlights, some of the opportunities, but also barriers that women that are driving technology startups are facing. So to kick off the discussion, I would first of all like to pose a question to Refilo. Refilo, first of all, great work that you're doing in terms of supporting one of the key elements of inclusive financial access, especially to the bottom of the pyramid. So my first question to you is if you could just very briefly elaborate on the kind of work that you're doing in providing insurance to low-income communities in Botswana.
What we have realized is the importance of financial inclusion in Africa and the whole of SADC, that we managed to spot a gap that we have realized that it excludes a lot of people financially. So we came up with a solution which we saw fit that it will be able to include everyone else. So basically what we do is that we've realized that even though people are earning a certain amount of money, there are people who still live under a lot of financial risks, especially if I could give an example with the COVID-19 situation and pandemic, that we see a lot of people losing their jobs. It means that they are losing their disposable incomes, which means that if they had insurance, they would be able to be supplied with a backup plan for all the financial losses that they incurred. So what FimoSure does is that we've created a platform, and in partnership with other insurance brokers, insurance agencies, to be able to distribute these insurance products to different kinds of people at the price that they can afford, not at the price that it is set way above the affordability. So we make sure that this price is, like, for example, the insurance premiums that they have, they are able to afford them with the low income that they have.
So thank you so much, Refilo. And I was just mentioning that it must be quite interesting, designing for a community that is very hard to reach. And also considering that when you're designing technology-based products, you're not only designing to address problems now, but problems for the future. So it's interesting to hear, how you're doing it, keeping in mind that there is actually a balance that needs to be created, between the social impact and also getting a business going. So we'll hear more on that. But at this point, I'd like to invite Rachel. Rachel, you're welcome. And I mean, I'm just amazed with MHub and all the work that you're doing in Malawi. I was there last year, and you guys are like a factory, a business factory, churning all these technology-based ideas and really driving the process of, innovation in Malawi. So tell us how this journey has been, you being a trailblazer in terms of encouraging technology-based businesses and getting women into the mainstream. What has been your experience in doing this through MHub?
So I started MHub around 2013, 2014, against the background that there was nothing like it. There was no technology or innovation hub to spur innovation to sustainable business models. And so I set up the hub to become a premium resource for innovators, enthusiasts, and entrepreneurs to transcend their innovative ideas into sustainable business solutions. Now, over the last 6 to 7 years, we have premised our work within 3 pillars. Number one is technology. Obviously, because we're living in the 4th industrial revolution, and it has become more eminent for us to adapt in developing innovative technology solutions that can solve social problems, but more importantly, become relevant and sustainable. Number two is the concept of grounding all our innovations in all our technology products to be innovative, because the world does not need old traditional solutions. We're being challenged to come up with very innovative solutions that can change the problems that we face. And lastly is been the facet of entrepreneurship. So we've been supporting entrepreneurs at 3 stages. Those at ideation stage to transcend to a space where they have a prototype or a product or a service that can go to the market. Those at startup phase that are looking to scale their product or services to the market, and those entrepreneurs that are post-revenue phase. They already have a product or a service on the market, but are looking to ensure that it can accelerate. Now, we've done this in a couple of ways. First is we've been providing training. We provide training skills around areas of technology. For example, we've got a girls coding club, specifically training girls how to develop technology solutions from websites to mobile applications. We also have a robotics club. We have a machine learning club, and we do also provide basic digital skills training for women entrepreneurs that we work with from the rural areas in how they can access technology platforms to gain knowledge and also sell their products and services to the market. Lastly, we also do provide access to financing. Currently, in the last 2 years, we have leveraged over $800,000 in financing to more than 24 emerging post-revenue entrepreneurs. And these cut across diverse fields, not just technology. So from technology to waste management to food production, just to mention a few. And I'm glad to say that at some point, we had 55% of the entrepreneurs that we were supporting with access to finance as women-led entrepreneurs. Currently, it's just slightly below 40% of those being women-led entrepreneurs. So it's been a great, fulfilling journey. Sometimes lonely being a women-led enterprise, but at the same time, we are seeing the benefits of it by seeing more women entrepreneurs that are being nurtured, mentored, and coached to actually create more jobs within the value chains in which they operate.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Rachel. It's very interesting to see all that work into action. And obviously would like to hear more. I mean, you give some very great insights into the publication. So I'm just amazed, to hear that you've been able to do all this work, but also putting in mind some of the businesses in Malawi, especially women-owned businesses that are still in the margins, and great work for, getting them into the mainstream of technology and innovation. So I'd like to now come to Auri. Auri, you're welcome, and would like to hear your insights. You played a very instrumental role in terms of putting together this amazing publication. I think that has been useful to most of the work that we are doing in Southern Africa, bringing stories to life of women that are pushing and driving, technology and innovation in Southern Africa. I remember that during your research, we had some very interactive and interesting discussions around some of the barriers. So we would like to get your insights, how it's been for you interacting in this space and basically bringing all this data together.
I was a part of the SICE program management office from 2017 to 2019. And in that space, as we were looking to support innovation ecosystems in Southern Africa, we definitely wanted to be a part of the movement in making any lovely interventions and effective interventions to be inclusive also to all genders, just according to the development policies of Finland, and we looked at it not only being as an equality issue, but it's an economic issue. And there was a study that I came across when writing this publication that states that female entrepreneurship actually contributes to 7 to 9% of the total GDP of Africa. So including women does make economical sense. But we realized that there wasn't enough understanding or knowledge about what the experience is like for women and what the challenges are and how we can actually support female entrepreneurship in technology better. So as I got the chance to speak to entrepreneurs such as Refiloe or the trailblazers who are supporting entrepreneurship, such as Rachel and Nambuya yourself, it was incredibly inspiring and motivational to see how the barriers exist, but there are women who are definitely blazing the trail and breaking them. And I think there's a lot to learn and there's a lot to gain from collecting those stories.
It's also interesting to see the report has also focused on a number of barriers that technology-based businesses or startups are facing, not only at the industry level but at a very personal level. So it's interesting to hear you mention how this experience has been and how you helped to bring some of those stories to life. So thank you for that. So I'll move back to Refilo. You could tell us a little bit more about some of the challenges that you've had to overcome as a female technology startup yourself.
Challenges are there and they are many, and every day is a day of overcoming them. But one of the greatest challenges that I have faced is mostly the sexism that is around women. For example, we're still living in a country where most people don't know that women can be greatly involved in technology, or a woman can lead a whole technology company, or even be the lead software developer of that company, of which that is something that I've realized that I've maybe pioneered that path to show other women that even though there are such barriers, or where you can find yourself as the only woman in a room, it doesn't mean that you are incapable or you don't belong there. You still have to go forward because you do belong in that place. And I think if we look at the overall statistics or numbers, we realize that most companies which are funded or which receive funding are those companies which have more men in that team than women. We find out that it's mostly the men who get more funding. That's also another challenge, that you still have to prove yourself as a young woman that you can actually do it. And sometimes you may have to use other strategies which involve, maybe you have to put more men in your team so that they can be a remarkable balance to continue satisfying or convincing the other parties that indeed this is a strong party. But with the support that comes with incubators, which mainly support female founders, it has been a bit better in terms of the funding that we get, the opportunities or the access that we get with maybe partnerships of other companies, multinational companies, which open doors for innovation and startups.
Okay. So thank you so much, Refilo, for that response. It's just great to hear you talk about how you've been able to navigate through some of those challenges. So at this point, I'll move to you, Rachel. Rachel, so obviously you've been in this, you've had experiences from starting an incubator or accelerator that is basically focusing on supporting innovation. So in your view, why do you think it is important to have female technology-driven businesses and ideas, in this particular sector, based on your experiences in Malawi?
Women make up almost half of the world's population, and I think Auri also alluded to that. And it reminds me of what Barack Obama once said, that we can therefore not talk about development of the world leaving behind half of the world's population. And as we talk about tech development, innovation within the technology space, developing innovative technology solutions that can, serve mankind, we cannot do that without the collective intelligence, the diversity that would come from, integrating gender dynamics in terms of leadership, but also implementation of technology entrepreneurial ventures. So it becomes important to integrate women, to support women-led enterprises, considering the fact that they bring perspectives, they bring the diversity and the collective intelligence that would ultimately lead to more profitable, more usable solutions within the technology space. But it's also important for us to highlight that research has actually shown that, in institutions or enterprises that have greater gender diversity have more likelihood of coming up with higher financial returns, higher productivity, and better sales, better profits. And more importantly, within the technology space, as Refilo was mentioning, it is a very largely male-dominated space. In fact, I was reading a certain research that was showing that the technology space is one of the disciplines where there are fewer women than most of the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. So it becomes important for us to continuously build the pipeline for women to lead institutions, to lead enterprises in the tech space, so that we can create a pool of role models, mentors, and leaders that the young girls can look up to, so that we are building a generation that can become more equal in representation of women and men in all spheres of life, including technology.
Thank you, Rachel. So where have you seen the most traction, in terms of, developing these systems that provide a support structure for an enabling environment for tech businesses, not only in Malawi, but in the region?
So I think we are seeing interest, particularly at the bottom of the pyramid. What I mean by that is starting to nurture the young ones, in particular girls, building their experience and expertise in technology, making them comfortable with technology. We have seen some of the girls that started off within our Girls Coding Club, learning basics of tech development, growing up and maturing to actually start their own technology-led enterprises. So I see there is actually a great opportunity in building the base of the pyramid by starting with these young ones, so that they can understand the language of technology. You enhance their confidence, creating spaces or programs specifically for girls or for women, so that they can thrive in a very comfortable space, but also making sure that at some point to integrate them with the other gender, because we are living in a world where we have to survive and thrive in a collective gender dynamic space, and then ultimately building their business modeling ideas and exposing them to opportunities for them to build, technology solutions that can actually thrive. But lastly, I also wanted to say that we're also seeing traction within even older women. I'll give you an example of a project where we are specifically working with women cooperatives in rural areas, in 6 rural districts. These are women who have largely not attained, proper formal education, but we've been able to help them to understand the basics of leveraging the use of technology for their businesses. And a case in point is a cooperative group that is selling mushroom, who is supported with branding and marketing support. And now they have found the power of social media and have been able to market their products on social media platforms and extended their profits by 40%, just because they have moved on to the digital spaces. So there is traction and opportunities we are seeing in the different groups, different initiatives for the various demographic segments of the population.
So I'll now move to Auri. So Ari, given your experience in training and capacitating, innovation ecosystems and female entrepreneurs, what are some of the three major catalytic actions that you think need to happen in terms of creating a better enabling environment, not only for technology businesses, but for the ecosystem as a whole?
On the findings of the study, and there I could really maybe level it out in three different aspects. So we need catalytic change on especially the personal level of the female entrepreneur, on the ecosystem level, which Rachel alluded to, a really lovely setup on the values of that the ecosystem can bring, but also on a community level that I think influences a lot of what will happen in the life of a female entrepreneur. And there, I just want to highlight the personal, on the personal level. I think that us women are quite often still bound by certain self-limiting belief. I think I don't know if you've experienced any kind of imposter syndrome in your life, but I've certainly have. And I think that came across in my discussions in the focus groups in Zambia, South Africa, and Namibia that we ran as a part of the study. And I think if we can ourselves work on boosting our confidence and taking that spot that, for instance, Refilo is really in an inspirational way, claiming that there can be a catalytic change in that. On an ecosystem level, what both Rachel and Reflo definitely alluded to was the tech space being dominated by men when it comes to investment. So ecosystem actors can definitely make sure that the gender representation is guaranteed. VC for Africa lent us some interesting data into the study when we partnered together also with the connected hubs to scope to understand the landscape of female entrepreneurship. And that investment readiness or the investment related matters didn't come up that much in the study because we were focusing on an early stage trajectory. So, but the matters of having role models, having those female mentors, and having the business trainers on the ground saying, by the way, your all male team is going to need some female perspective in order to generate more revenue and to be more sustainable in the future. So this is really important for a catalytic change on the ecosystem level. But in our communities and in the communities in Southern Africa, there's a lot that can be done in matters of support that is absolutely free and easy to do right away if we just adjust ourselves. So when the women were sharing their stories about being disencouraged to go on the path of an entrepreneur because that's a tough job and that's for men, we can adjust this in a little bit where if we hear those stories of women on that path of entrepreneurship, that we can support them mentally and just saying, you are doing something incredibly brave, just keep on going. And I think us as consumers, we can support our local entrepreneurs by buying locally and not assuming that we can only buy technology products from men, but also trust our female sisters, mothers, aunts, and daughters and friends in this aspect. We can immediately go and like each other's Facebook pages and support the businesses through that. So there's a lot we can do, and I think together on those three levels, the personal, ecosystem, and community, we can definitely bring the catalytic change that I think a prosperous Africa really needs.
I know that you spoke to a number of women across the Southern African region. So in your view, according to the kind of responses that you were getting, how different were their views in terms of some of the barriers that they were facing in the technology ecosystem? Did you have very diverse views?
The diversity of the views was certainly there, but there was a lot, like the data became saturated quite soon. So when we were conducting this research we really saw that there's a lot of universality in the experience of the female tech entrepreneur. And me coming from Finland and having kind of witnessed the discussion in a northern context, I could definitely see how a lot of the experience in Africa was, or in Southern Africa specifically, was similar. The underestimation or expectancy of failure because you are a woman, or the experience of women thinking that they need to come up with coping mechanisms to fit in that male-dominated space, either becoming, even in clothing or the way they speak, how they can kind of mask themselves to assimilate better in these networking opportunities, to avoid the sexism, to avoid the sexual harassment. These were very kind of similar experience that I've witnessed also firsthand. And I think what came across as a little bit of a difference on what makes Southern Africa unique, or Africa as a whole, I think the very traditional gender roles do impact a lot. Women spoke of issues regarding balancing family responsibilities and being entrepreneurs. So that came, but I think that there's a lot of truth in that also. No matter where you are, if you are a mother and an entrepreneur, it's going to be a bumpy ride. But I think the diversity came more across, and maybe if you compare the African experience, if you can label something as that, with a Western one or a Northern one.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Auri, and thank you to all of you. Thanks, Rifilo, for your great thoughts and insights. Thank you, Rachel, Auri as well. I'd just like to, wrap up by mentioning that I think it's extremely important, as we are pushing, for gender parity in the female technology, entrepreneurship, and innovation ecosystem, to really consider practical ways of really getting women to participate in the mainstream of technology and to be drivers of this change. And I think, the solutions, the problems are very common across the Southern African region, but I think we also need to think through very tailored, ways of supporting the continuous engagement of especially young people, young girls, to get them to expose them to different skills, training, and basically supporting their confidence to venture into these industries. I think I remember I loved the personal words of Kofi in the publication, when she talks about the fact that initially when she got into this space, she thought that she was in it because women now suddenly had been allowed by men to get into the technology space. But then she realized that is not the reason she was doing what she was doing. And I think that cuts across a lot of female entrepreneurs get to think that they need permission, to venture into the technology ecosystem. But I think it's very important that we begin to build confidence and courage, and also to put it out there that innovation will only be achieved by everybody, and that women actually have the right space to be in the mainstream of pushing technology and entrepreneurship. So thank you very much. It's been amazing speaking to all of you, and I hope that you do get to enjoy the rest of the annual Southern African Innovation Forum. Thank you for this opportunity, and all the best in the different work that you're doing. Thank you. So thank you so much. So at this point, we'll get into the question and answer. And thank you so much to all our attendees for the questions and comments that you've posed through the live chat. So I will start by addressing some of the questions that we have. So the first one goes to Auri. So Auri, what is the typical profile of a female entrepreneur in technology, according to what you have gathered through your studies and what you have learned interacting with all these female entrepreneurs?
Thank you for the question. I think that the study does paint a very diverse picture. We have compiled some infographics on the free publication that you can find a link on the chat as well. But just to kind of compile some of the data that we found is that this is a very diverse group of women. The vast majority has an education of a higher degree. 75% of them are solving a societal challenge, and they are working in a diverse section of fields. We found that about 20% are working in ICT, but just as a close second, 19% are working in agriculture, and about 17% were found to work in education. But there was a very diverse group of fields represented. And when you're looking at how we can support these women, it's important to understand their life situation overall. About half of them have children, so family obligations can affect the duties of running a business. A lot of them are definitely running their business aside a full-time job. So we as entrepreneurship enablers and supporters need to be cognizant of this diversity. And not all of them are women at the same time as well. So I'm sorry that not all of them are mothers that have children. So it is important to recognize that we need to support the women in a multitude of ways. And feel free to browse through the publication for a bit more information there and more details.
Great. Thank you so much, Auri. I guess it's also about, women being able, or rather society, being able to recognize and appreciate the different elements that surround, a female entrepreneur that is trying to build a business. So those are very great insights. So I will now turn to Rachel. Rachel, how do you manage risk as you invest in entrepreneurs? Having worked for such a long time in this space, supporting businesses to get to the next level of growth. What are some of the indicators that you see as risks, and how do you manage those?
Yeah, thanks very much, Nambola. So within our investment readiness programs, where we're making financing investment into the entrepreneurs that we incubate and accelerate, there are a number of ways in which we do manage risk. Firstly is we conduct very thorough due diligence processes. So looking at the registration of the business, evaluating the capacity of the team that is leading the business, looking into aspects of how they keep their records and their financial management abilities. We're not looking for very sophisticated financing systems, accounting systems, but really basic, but where you can see some order, where we can see that there is commitment to running it as a separate entity, as a business, and not as a personal financing venture. Part of what we've also done is to ensure that the financing that we provide can typically go towards purchasing of capital equipment to manage the risk. It does not necessarily go into running of operations of the particular business. However, we do ask the entrepreneurs to match the financing that they ask from us with 20% of their own financing to go towards operational costs or their wages, or indeed paying for raw materials and other day-to-day costs. So I would say that that's how we manage the risk, but it also flips back into being advised to women entrepreneurs in the space that are looking for investment financing to ensure that they have proper records in place and, they are saving up financing to ensure that they can also match up with potential financing options or opportunities that come through. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I think that is very, very relevant information. So I can see there's another question in the chat, and this goes to Refilo. So the question is, Refila, how do we encourage other women to not be afraid of getting into the tech space with all the barriers to entry?
Thank you, Nambula, for the question. First and foremost, we need to teach the young girls first. If we teach the young girls first, we don't have to worry about the women. So we need to have these panels also in order for exposure, so that other women can see that other women are in the space and they are really wanted in this space and they can contribute a lot in this space. And in the journey of entrepreneurship, there's a lot that happens, the ups and the lows of it. We all experience them, whether it's male or female. And the world needs to be okay with the fact that women will try and they will fail, and they should be given a chance to try as many times as they get. Because generally, we are conditioned to preconceived ideas that women should get it right the first time, and there's no room for mistakes or delays in a woman's life. So if we could break those stereotypes, then that's how we could encourage young women and young girls that it is possible and they can still get into it. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So so I guess these are the questions that we have in our live chat. Thank you so much for all your contributions. I think the publication link has been put on this chat, and you can also find it on the website. And upload all the these women who are doing amazing things in leading technology and innovation in Southern Africa. Thank you for all your work. It's been amazing speaking to you and getting your insights. I hope that we can continue these discussions. Thank you, and please enjoy the rest of the summit. Bye.